Oh Lord, we having
Our
fun
little
tonight.
segment here.
So we have our new segment again. Dr. George just called. So I guess now is the time for what?
House Call with Dr. Tanya George from Noonieland.
Oh,
Can you ring my
How are
doorbell?
you?
no, I
Hold up, Dr.
did. I
Tanya. Did you
did.
ring the doorbell?
I did. I'm on.
I didn't hear.
Well, I can't help you if you didn't hear it.
Can you reading again? Okay.
All right. But anyway, we are fixing to start our segment called House Call with Dr. Tanya George.
Yes.
And tonight she's going to talk about, I guess, nutrition.
Wellness 101.
Wellness 101.
Yeah.
And before we get started, I want to preface it with this because and it's funny because what Dr. George is about to talk about
Yes.
it Van Jones. For those of you who know Van Jones, but he's not on my top list of people anyway. But because some of the stuff he says some stuff that's kind of, well, anyway, it's out there. But anyway, he had a message for black people about black health amid this coronavirus pandemic, and people started slamming him. And we're talking about black scholars and social media users were slamming him about this and saying how we as black people need to take more responsibility for the health disparities that are within the black community. And watch this. He said that since the COVID-19 is disproportionately killing black people because of the diseases like hypertension, diabetes, asthma, and obesity, it makes the virus far more deadly for us. And African American communities have those illnesses in numbers that are way out of proportion. And then he laid out why black people are more likely to have these underlying health conditions, saying that black people tend to work challenging jobs that pay less and offer worse health insurance. And he said that's a recipe for bad health right there. He's also said that doctors have been shown to give us shoddier services, even when we have health insurance. And watch this. And we also tend to live in neighborhoods where the stores sell less healthy food, meaning there's fast food joints and liquor stores there, and that provide many meals in urban America. So he says also points out the systemic racism on full display in our healthcare and economic systems. And he said that black people need to take more responsibility for our individual health choices. And this is what set the social media stratosphere to go off on Brother Van Jones. Hey Kim, how you doing?
Kim.
Oh, and I'm so well, y'all. You know what? We might have to talk to Kim and have her on here
I
because
already got that
Joshua, because her son.
Okay. You talking about the
Yeah, but look here, I'm proud that Joshua is doing well and he's doing good. We're gonna talk about this one day.
Yes.
We're gonna talk about this
and
Kim.
have them both on.
and have
When
yeah
all this lift.
and all this
Because I
lift.
want them to come in.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. You hear that, Kim?
But we
Okay.
got Kim.
Kim
booked
Kim
for her
is for a book. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's coming on for the book. All right, but hey Kim, how y'all doing? All right. Tell your sisters we all said hey.
Yeah.
We said hey, hello. Okay, so Van Jones got slammed for all of this that he was saying, and I read the article, and I just gave you a brief synopsis of it, but I found nothing wrong with what he was saying. Again, I don't like the dude, but just because I don't like him does not mean he's not saying things that are beneficial and need to be said. So with that being said,
Yes.
Dr. George. Oh,
Okay, soon as y'all say that, then the dogs start
I
barking.
know. I heard that. I heard that. So I don't know. I thought maybe he might have been a doctor or
I
something.
know, he's like,
I I thought he was chiming in
He
with
was
his
speaking up,
diagnosis and
like,
what he had to say.
yeah,
So,
hello.
yeah. So I was just waiting to see what he was gonna say.
I am hoping that they stay quiet because there's two of them and a bird out there, and
Oh,
I'm
Lord.
hearing all three of them as soon as I get on the phone. Yes. So tonight I wanted to go over just wellness 101, basic stuff about wellness, but also tied into COVID because of what you just mentioned. So I'm just going to give some statistical background with regarding to some comorbidities in the non-Hispanic black community. African American, I'm hearing the term brown, black people, whatever's politically correct at the moment.
Which they
But
don't
for
even know.
non-Hispanic black people, obesity, 49.6% of blacks, obese.
That's high.
Heart disease, for non-Hispanic blacks, 23.5% of deaths. We account for 23.5% of deaths, and that's in both men and women.
Ooh.
Diabetes, 13.3% diagnosed with diabetes mellitus, but we have a 66% higher rate of developing diabetes in comparison to white Americans. Hypertension, 54%. 54% hypertension. High blood pressure. Hypertension, high blood pressure, same thing. 54%. And we have a 49% higher prevalence rate of developing hypertension compared to white Americans.
Okay.
So all of this information was taken from the Centers for Disease Control. This is not just numbers that I make up. When you think about all of these different comorbidities and how we're affected, and we're like number one in all of these categories. COVID, those individuals that have been found to have severe cases and that have succumbed from it, a large percentage of the non-Hispanic black people, African American people, black people, have had these medical comorbidities. There's a lot of debate, the disparities, inequalities, racism. I'm not here to even go into that. I'm not a politician, not a lawyer. My goal, I consider myself to be a Christian wellness advocate, so my goal is to help educate people on taking care of their lives, being individuals. We can do things to affect the race, to affect our communities, populations, at different levels, and that takes a lot of legwork. It takes a lot of changes in systems. Those things will take a lot of time. But as an individual, what can you do for yourself to improve your life and to improve your health and your wellness? So there's differences between what the definition of health and wellness is. When you think about health, health is really just a state of well-being, whether it be with respect to your physical, social, or your mental health. But when you think about wellness, wellness is an active, ongoing process of living out and achieving a healthy lifestyle. And wellness has various dimensions. So when you think about, you see people and you're like, oh, how you doing? How are things? And people say, oh, I'm well. But meanwhile, they limping, or, they living on the street. They're homeless. They don't have a job. You're not really well if you have these major things going on in your life, because there are so many dimensions of wellness. 8 major dimensions of wellness. 1, physical. So when you think about your physical, whether or not you have any diseases, any illnesses, any ailments, that are hindering your everyday life, do you have to use assistive devices? Whether you have to use a walker or a wheelchair, whether or not you're able to do physical activity, your nutritional status. Those are things that fall under physical wellness. Then you have your occupational, whether or not you have a job. Especially now with COVID, some people lost their jobs. Some people are furloughed. Some people straight out got laid off. Some people are fortunate to work. Some people that are on the front lines, they're working every day. They're working too much. So that level of wellness with regards to your occupation. Then you have intellectual. You know, what's intellectual wellness? Whether or not you are cultivating your mind, whether or not you're using the creative gifts that God has given you in order to do more, to create things. Whether or not you're expanding your knowledge and using that knowledge that you obtain. You have your financial wellness. You know, do you have enough money to pay your bills? Is your light bill paid for? Can you pay your car note, your insurance? Do you have that type of money stability, you know, to get through and pay all your bills and still have money to eat and live a quote-unquote normal lifestyle? You have social, you know, do you have friends? Do you feel like you belong? You have relationships that are fruitful. If you don't, do you have people in your life that disrupt your peace and you need for them to be out of your space? You know, having that balance. Environmental. Are you living in a house where there's 10 other people in a 2-bedroom apartment? You know, is the areas that you have to sleep a mattress, you know, with several other mattresses, and you're sleeping with other people on the mattress in your family because your living accommodations may not be, you know, what you would want it to be? Is your environment safe? Are you in an environment where there's rodents, roaches, and things like that? You know, is your environment at a level that will allow you to be well? Your mental, emotional. Are you depressed? Do you have bipolar disease? You know, are you sitting up suffering every day by existing? I had someone call me the other day and tell me that they are losing their strive to live, to exist, because they don't feel like they have a purpose in this life. So that leads me to the center dimension, the 8th, which is spiritual. So my response to that person was, if you think of wellness in the different dimensions, if you think of the dimensions as a spike on a wheel, like the spoke, you know, this on the wheels, and if you look at a wheel and in the center part of the wheel, you've put spiritual wellness in there, that's where God belongs. Ooh. So God is supposed to be the center of everyone's lives for all aspects of their lives. So if you have God as your focus, then all of the other areas will be more manageable, and you'll be able to have wellness in all of those areas. And it makes me think about Matthew 6:3. It says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." So if you have no foundation, and if you don't have someone to lay your burdens on because you have no beliefs, no spiritual foundation, no one that you believe in, you're just existing as an individual, then you're carrying all that weight. You're worrying. You're trying to just get through life. You're existing instead of living. And God doesn't want us to do that. So there's a lot of different issues and debates when you think about COVID. There's healthcare access. You have healthcare inequalities, racism. Yes, people, racism is alive and well in 2020.
Yeah.
And because of that, when you think about the high levels of COVID deaths, I was just going through some of the data about some cities, say Louisiana for one, and this was in the earlier part of April. I don't know what the statistics is over the past like a week or so, but early April, Louisiana, 70% of the individuals that died from COVID were African American. I'm like, when you hear these numbers, it baffles me.
Yeah.
New York, you know, when you think about New York, New York, African Americans are just 99% of the population of New York, but 20% of the deaths were of African American people. You know, you have other places like Michigan, where there's just high populations of African Americans dying, or having more severe illness when compared to other races. So what I would like to do tonight is just encourage people, the systemic things that are going on that causes, and the ignorance that causes the racism, the health inequalities, the disparities. We can't change those things overnight. Those things have to be worked on, and not as like individuals, but as groups. And it will take time. But what we can do individually is have a level of self-accountability so that we can better our own levels of wellness. Are black people to blame for all the racism, inequalities, healthcare disparities? No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that each individual, we have a responsibility to take care of our own lives.
Yes.
Nobody else is responsible for my weight but me. Because I control what I put in my mouth. I control how much physical activity I get. So, as an individual, what can you do in order to better your health so you can possibly lessen the rates of the diabetes, the obesity, the heart disease, the hypertension that we have? I think of 1 Corinthians 6:19-20. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you? When you have received from God, you are not your own. You were bought at a price, therefore honor God with your bodies. So we should be honoring God and trying to take care of our bodies the best way that we can. So basic information, some people may not know when you're thinking about just nutrition and what you do for your body, which will then fall into the other wellness categories. I don't know if anyone's ever gone on a diet. I've gone on a mini diet. Me and my weight is a constant battle. Some people may look and be like, oh, well, you're fine, you're good, you don't need to lose weight. I have been battling with weight issues since I was younger.
Okay.
And I still battle with it. Because in my family, all women around 200 plus. So I do everything that I can to not be in that category. But I'm short. I'm vertically challenged. I'm not even 5'3" yet. Yet. I have hope.
Oh.
So.
Oh, well, LaVon can join you in that one, then.
Bro.
At my height, my BMI, my body mass index, I should be weighing no more than like about 138. I hear people in my past, being a clinician, I used to do bariatric surgery for 5 years. I was a bariatric coordinator, and I used to hear people say, well, the BMI chart, and these were African-American black people telling me, the BMI chart don't apply to us. They don't apply to our race.
Oh, they don't?
No.
So I'm like, so who does it apply? Oh, it only applies to white people. That's what I would be told constantly by individuals. So, and I'm like, but meanwhile, we're the ones with the highest obesity rate. We're the ones with the highest diabetes rate, hypertension rate, and heart disease rate. So, I'm like, kind of, like, okay, so it's not making sense to me. So I would highly suggest people to focus on basic things. 1, exercise. Exercise is so important. When we have obesity is because most of the time, granted there are medical conditions that make people heavier than what they should be because of different hormonal issues, etc. Some people may have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and there goes the alarm in my house. I hope y'all can't hear that.
Yeah, we can hear the
Hear
alarm.
Some people have PCOS, and that causes weight gain, and it causes you to just have all these other adverse effects. Some people have hormonal imbalances that may make them more obese or overweight than the next person. But overall, if you're struggling with overweight or obesity, it's because your caloric intake is not matching up with your expenditure,
Okay.
your physical expenditure.
Yeah, you're gonna have to break
So
Yeah,
that,
if
you're
you're
going to break that
taking in,
down.
break that down.
if you're taking in 2,000 calories per day, right? But you're sitting around on your tushy all day, and you're only expending like 1,200 calories. So that's 800 excess calories per day that's just sitting on your body. And as the days pass and build up, that's where the weight comes from. So you have to try to balance out how much food you're taking in, the calories that you're putting into your body, and also the amount of physical caloric expenditure. And it has to be close. It has to be close. Otherwise, you'll keep having an excess of calories, and those excess of calories will turn into excess weight.
Oh, and I wanted to interject something because our sister up
New York,
in New York,
off of Long Island.
off of Long Island. Shout out to Prophetess Taisha Vassor. She's saying that this is so good because she said up there the doctors just give medicine and they just expect you to take it and never ask to get off. She said when she got off of her blood pressure medicine, she said the cardiologist said, "You are my first patient to make an effort to come off. Most people just live with it."
Let me tell you, about, I don't know, let me see how old I am. I will not disclose that, but let's see. About 8-9 years ago,
I was gonna say use both
I
hands.
started going to the bathroom more frequently, number one. I was just thirsty all the time. I would have to get up in the middle of the night all the time. They call it polyuria, a lot of urine. Polydipsia, you have this excessive thirst. And I was like, I'm diabetic. I'm like, I'm a clinician, I'm a provider. I'm like, I know I'm diabetic. So I was like, let me just make an appointment with the endocrinologist. Made the appointment. I'm not sure if anyone knows about what your hemoglobin A1C levels are. Normally, they're in the 5.5 range and lower.
Yeah.
I went up in there. It was 8.1.
Woo.
What?
Wow.
8.1. At the time, I was not well in many areas of dimensions of wellness. I was suffering from depression. I had experienced a lot of things in my life. I was just taking it on, worrying, not giving God my problems, just trying to deal with everything myself. And I had gained so much weight. At 5'3", I had went up to almost like 190 pounds at 5'3".
Wow.
So I went to the doctor, 8.1 hemoglobin A1C. Now, diabetes runs in my family on my mother's side. And I also have what's called polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I'm sharing all this because I, too, like you guys, I'm transparent. I have nothing to hide. We all have issues. We all have elements. We all have things that we've experienced. We have all have things that we fight through and that we go through. And I believe that that's my calling right now, is to encourage people, not as somebody sitting back, oh, yeah, I'm a doctor, and, oh, let me tell you what to do. No, I'm a provider, but I've experienced a lot of these things as well. So I have firsthand experience with this one particular thing. So that doctor, she was like, wow, okay, 8.1 A1 hemoglobin A1C. So she was like, well, I'll have you come back in 3 months. She put me on metformin, and she was like, I'll have you come back in 3 months. We'll check your levels again, and we'll see. I told her that day, I said, I am telling you, when I come back in here, you're not even going to notice me. Because I said, I will never be on anybody's insulin. I will never be on anybody's insulin. When I left there, like I said, I was 190 pounds. 90 pounds. When I came back 3 months later, I was 160.
Ooh wee.
Amen.
Amen.
And my A1C was 5.4. That was 8 years ago. It has gone no higher than like maybe 5.9 ever since. And 5 point, in between like 5.5 and 6 is considered like pre-diabetes.
Yep, I know.
So I'm like, I'm not going on any insulin. I could have easily just said, you know what, oh, I have it. Well, it's just something I have to live with. And, you know, I'll just keep taking the medications and, or, you know, have to take insulin or whatever. No, it's self-accountability. Yes, it's hereditary in my family. Yes, I have PCOS. I'm double whammy. But you know what? I don't have to just accept it and not do anything to try to fight it and combat it.
Amen.
So 190 pounds, and I don't care. I'll tell people I'm about 158 now. But
Oh,
I'm
very
still
good.
overweight
She done
for
gone
myself.
down. She done gone down some more.
You know, I feel like I'm still actively working to lose weight and to get to a healthier weight for my height, a healthier weight where I don't feel tired, where I'm not, you know, having any struggles to do physical activity or things like that. So, okay, what we eat. Fruits and veggies is a huge part. So American Heart Association, they recommend, as well as many other major health organizations, 4 servings of fruit and 5 vegetables per day. Okay? 4 servings of fruit and 5 vegetables. Like, how often do people get that in? I mean, there's
Not
a whole
often.
food pyramid, you know, and we know it exists, but how many of us take the time to make sure that we're getting in all of the nutrients that we need? The macronutrients, such as like the protein, the carbs, the fat. So when you think about the macronutrients, for carbs, it should be no more than 45 to 65% of your diet. Protein should be about 10 to 35% of your diet. And fat should be no more than 20 to 35%. Then micronutrients, those are things like your vitamins, your minerals, vitamin A, vitamin D, E, your folate, your iron, all of those. I always recommend people take multivitamins. Obviously, any recommendation that I give, any information I give, whether it be exercise, diet changes, always consult your medical provider first before changing anything. But multivitamins, if you're not consuming the proper diet, you're not getting in your 4 fruit and 5 vegetables per day, then you take your supplements to try to lessen that gap. It's better to get it from the foods that you eat, but if you're not getting that, then, you know, it's a great way to make sure that you do get it by getting a multivitamin that has the majority of all of the different fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins and minerals that our bodies need. Exercise, that's a huge one.
Yes.
So the Department of Health and Human Services, they recommend 150 minutes, of moderate exercise per week. So what's moderate? I don't mean like, just walking to the back door or walking to go take the garbage out. When you think about moderate activity, it means that your heart rate is at a certain level, and that all depends on your age, your gender, and that's something that you have to look up individually because it's not the same for everyone. But it's having a moderate level of activity where you have a little bit of difficulty even talking as you're doing the activity. And that's throughout the week. So if you're thinking you got 30 minutes one day, 30 minutes the next, 30 minutes another day, 30 minutes, right? Another 30 minutes. So say 5 days a week, 30 minutes, moderate level activity. Or if you have 75 minutes of vigorous activity. And I mean like you running on a treadmill 6 miles an hour, you doing heavy exercises, sprinting, all types, elliptical, and you're going fast, vigorous activity that's causing you to sweat, and you can't really talk while you're doing it. That's what's recommended as the minimum amount of exercise per week that we're supposed to be getting in. I'm actually tired right now because before I came on, I went to White Rock Lake. I don't know if in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I went walking with a coworker of mine, a nurse. We just needed some woosah time. She went to New York. She's a travel nurse, so she got sent to New York in Queens, and she was working for 21 days. They gave her 1 day off while she was there.
What?
So she was there seeing, having to deal with people coding and dying every single day.
Wow.
So we went out there to just have some woosah time, and we walked and walked and walked and walked. Sweat, because it was nice and warm today, and just walked and walked and walked. And when I got back home, I think we walked probably maybe close to 4 miles based on what our phones were saying. Got home and showered and everything, and I'm beat now.
Beat?
I'm like, I'm tired, because
Jesus.
we did a lot of walking.
And then they're on the
So,
front
but
lines, too.
just
Well, yeah,
moderate
yeah.
level
Yeah.
activities. Even if you just walk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some
'cause-
people have bad knees, so you can't do, like running or elliptical or things like that. Some other things that you can do if you have like bad joints, bicycling. Bicycling does not put a lot of resistance on your knees. Just simple walking, even walking on grass instead of the concrete. And now with everything going on with COVID, if you're too scared to go out the house or you are immunocompromised, you have greater risk of developing COVID and you need to do things at the house, whatever happened to old-fashioned, like, jumping jacks and sit-ups,
Push-ups.
just walking around the house, walking up and down the stairs? I tell people you can go and if you have, like, gallons of milk or half gallons of milk, and say you use them, don't throw them away. Leave them, fill them up with water.
Mm-hmm.
You can use that as weights.
It sure is.
You can pick up cans of foods that you may have. Please don't drop them on your toes and be like Dr. George made me use cans to work out with, and now I got a blood clot in my toe because I dropped the can. Be careful, people. But just anything in your house that has weight to it. If you have bleach and you've used all the bleach, make sure the bleach bottle is not bleach on the outside and stuff like that. Fill it up with water. You can use those bottles, Gatorade bottles, fill them up with water. Use them as weights. You don't have to have a gym membership. You don't have to do anything all fancy to try to better your level of physical activity. You
Yeah.
can do so many things in your house. If you walk up and down the stairs, I tell you, you will get tired. You will get tired just walking up and down the stairs, up and down the stairs. If you got a backyard that's enclosed, you can walk and make laps around your backyard if you don't want to go beyond your own house area because of COVID. There's many things to do, and a lot of times we make excuses, and we don't do what we need to do in order to better our lives.
Yeah, because Lady Levon and I started, since I couldn't go to the gym and probably not going to be able to go to the gym, I started walking 3 miles. And so I was like, okay, let's go. Come on. Because I mapped it out and I finally got it down. And I was like, okay, let's go. So we try to do it at least 4 days a week. We walk 3 miles. Now I'm up to the point where I can add another mile to it.
Right.
So, but yeah, like you said.
Before COVID, I mean, I do still have a gym membership, and I was going to the gym, and sometimes I would go 4 or 5 times a week, and I mean, I was really dropping the weight. I was getting down. I was approaching the 140s range and real happy, and then, things change and it's more of a challenge. I'm not going to act like it's not such a, that it's not a challenge. It is a challenge. COVID has changed our lives in so many ways.
Yes.
So many ways. But we do have to understand that during this time that we're facing, that God is allowing us to face, that we have to do what we can do in order to be well. And it's not just, I just feel physically well. It's so many different areas of being well. While we're isolated and home sheltering, do you have people in your lives that you can call and, talk to? People that you can hit up on social media? Do you have a base of people so that you don't feel like you're going through this alone? Is your mental and emotional wellness sound? For those I heard in the beginning of the podcast, you were talking about those individuals, if you needed help or assistance, and put your pride aside and call in. There's so many people that got laid off, millions and millions of people applying for unemployment, people in lines every day at food banks.
Yes.
The food banks are running out of food.
Yes.
It has affected everyone in some way, others in greater capacity. But while we're going through this, while as a black person we have all these disparities that are against us, and we're being the one race that's being affected more so when it comes to deaths in many of these metropolitan areas and throughout the U.S. We just have to do our part at trying to maintain, keep our wellness levels up, and most of all, if we need help, get help.
Yes.
If you need help in any of those areas, seek help. Don't just keep it in, because then you will fall apart. You will find yourself suffering from depression and anxiety and all types of things. If you need financial assistance, try to seek help. Try to, do the food banks. If you need that social support, reach out to your friends, reach out to your family, those individuals that will, give you that uplift. Again, I mentioned someone in my family called me and said that their thrive to live is just like diminished now, Main thing I had to tell them was, is God your focus?
Amen.
When we make God our focus
There we go.
and put things, all of the things that we may be dealing with on Him and allow Him to guide us, we can get through and get past any situation that we may come against.
Exactly.
So I encourage people to keep God as the center of your lives. He is our Redeemer. He's our healer. He is in control of COVID. He is in control of our lives, everything. Have discernment, listen to Him, and be encouraged.
Amen. Because it's I mean, like you said, we all are affected, and no, it's not like how we want. No, nor is it what we want. No, it's definitely not what we want to deal with and put up with. Howsoever, all of us in the world are now in the same boat. So now
Exactly.
we have to rely on each other, and like you said, we have to you have to rely on your own inner circle, the people that that your inner support group, and if you don't have one, try to find someone that you feel that you could trust, that you could talk to, who won't go run and tell what you are about to tell them. If you don't have an inner circle, find you that one or two people that you could run and talk to and say and try to get some of that stress, that weight or that burden off of you, and not keep internalizing that stuff. Because when you internalize that stuff, watch this, that causes stress. When you and when that causes stress, then watch this, that causes your blood pressure to go up. And when your blood pressure go up and you can't come, and you don't know why it can't come down, well, then you go to the doctor, and the doctor tell you, well, you got high blood pressure. And so now, therefore, the doctor gonna put you on some type of medication to bring your blood pressure down, that you don't know how it got high in the first place.
It's all intertwined.
Exactly.
It's all intertwined. None of the dimensions of wellness exist on its own. They're all intertwined. And like you said, if you obese and your weight keep going up, then you can get high blood pressure. So you have that physical wellness, and next thing you know, you have to purchase medications that interfere with your financial wellness. I mean, and you can go on and on and on.
Exactly.
You know,
Everything
they're all
leads
intertwined.
To one thing leads to another, nothing leads to something else leads to something I don't want to deal with, something else deals with that's something out of my control, and next thing you know, now I've lost all control, and now I've lost all sense of direction and sensibility. Now I can't seem to find my way out of this rabbit hole. What do I do? Now that leads you to depression. Again, like you said, everything leads to something else, and then before you know it, now you have, like you said, you have hypertension. Now you have to have, you got diabetes, you got sugar, as old folks say. And depression. You got all this stuff on top of that. Now you got all these medications that you got to take that you now have no way to buy because you don't have the finances to purchase them.
That's right.
So now, what do I do? All because you was worried about something that you could not control, that you can't control no how. It's out of your realm. It's out of your scope. It is out of your abilities and capabilities. So why put all your effort and energy into something that you cannot control and you don't have no control over no how? So again, this all still ties in. Just because I can, should I? Just because I can, should I?
Because you can't eat that whole dozen of these donuts.
Exactly.
Should you?
Exactly.
Just because you can eat that pork, should you?
Yeah.
Because it ain't something that is bad with pork, but you know what? Your body may not be able to process the pork. So therefore, you are not a good candidate to eat pork. So therefore, you need to find you something else to eat. Instead of, okay, well, it's good. Well, it don't, just because it's lawful to do, is it lawfully to be done? Is it expedient, and is it edifying for me? Well, obviously not, because since my body can't digest and can't process the pork meat, well, therefore it's not expedient for me, and it doesn't edify me, because all it does is make my health go down. I don't go up. And so therefore, just because it's lawful to eat it, it's not lawfully for me to intake and to digest. So therefore, just because I can, should I?
Amen.
Exactly.
So we have to think about all of these things before we do them, because like you said, our bodies, since we are temple of the Lord, prime example. This thing about it, this isn't ours. This is on loan. Matter of fact, we are the stewards of it. Oh, if you want to take it to another step, we are the landlords of this body as well as the tenant. We're the landlord / tenant of this body. And it's up to us to make sure that oh, Jesus Christ, Shamika again. If we ignore her, don't she won't say nothing. Yeah, but just because you can just because I'm talking about the tenants and landlord being in this body. We got to make sure we do all the upgrades. We got to make sure everything is in tip-top shape. We got to make sure all the repairs are done right. We got to make sure the plumbing is done and all of that.
And let me just say this. Just because you've been diagnosed with diabetes or hypertension or obesity, that does not mean that you have to stay there.
There you go.
You can change that. You can change that. You hypertension, Stay away from canned foods, people, if you have high blood pressure.
Come on.
Canned foods high in sodium. Get your fresh string beans, your fresh spinach. Don't eat canned meats. Meat is not supposed to be in a can. All these things is full of sodium. There's ways to combat it. There's ways to lessen the burden of the hypertension, the diabetes, the obesity, all these things on your level of wellness. And one person's wellness is not going to be the next person's wellness.
Well,
Because someone's financial wellness might be just, I just want to be able to pay my bills. And somebody else's financial wellness can be, I just want to be able to eat today. We all have different levels of what our personal wellness looks like.
exactly.
Don't shortchange yourself. Have high expectations of what your wellness looks like. And go for it. The time is now. Are you ready to shift?
Hey man, I like that.
yeah.
I sure did. I like that. She trying to preach us. Like she trying to preach us something.
Said the time
That is one of my slogans.
Oh,
My website will be up in the next couple of weeks, but that is one of my slogans. The time is now. Are you ready to shift? And
I
don't
like
be
that.
using it, people. That's mine.
If they quote you, make
Okay.
sure they give you your credits.
Now I'm gonna tell Mama.
Oh, Lord.
Now I'm gonna tell Mama.
If they quote you, they should give you your credit.
Yeah.
That's all.
But seriously, y'all remember. Please remember this is if you don't remember, again, take what Dr. Tanya just told you.
Yeah.
It's time. The time is now. Are you ready to shift?
Yeah.
And also remember, just because you can, should you? You have to remember that all this ties in together. All of it ties in together. And I said I was going to say this at the end of the at the end of the hour. If you know of anyone who is in need of food or in need of groceries, please, please, please set your pride aside and inbox us here either on Walk the Talk Ministries in our inbox, or inbox me or Lady Levon on our personal pages. We will get it to the people that we know are doing it and make sure that you get what you are in need of, okay? We don't want nobody to go without hungry, without food, I mean. We don't want nobody to go be hungry or go to bed on an empty stomach. When there's people that are able to provide and care for you, all right? And if you would like to partner with us, either through prayer, or through financial donations, monetary donations, and you want to partner with Walk the Talk Ministries, by all means, pray for us. Or if you need us to pray for you, inbox us at Walk the Talk Ministries, or email us at walkthetalkministries18@gmail. All right, that's walkthetalkministries18@gmail.com. And if you would like to partner with us, you can through monetary, you can either do it by Fishbowl Radio Network, which is fbrn.us. Go to shows, then shows schedule, and go to Wednesday. Look for our show, Walk the Talk Ministry. It takes you to our page and scroll down to the bottom, and there's a link down there that says donate. Or you can go to PayPal. Just PayPal us. I'm trying to think. I don't know if there's any our PayPal. Yeah, I don't remember the PayPal. I don't think it's a particular it's a particular one. I'm trying to find it, y'all, but bear with me. Yeah, it's PayPal and it's Walk the Talk Ministry. Okay. Yeah, PayPal is Walk the Talk Ministry, or you can do Cash App. It's hashtag Walk the Talk 18. All right, that's either through Walk the Talk 18 on Cash App, Walk the Talk Ministry on the PayPal, or fbrn.us on the Fishbowl Radio Network on the shows and shows schedule. And with that being said, y'all, we're going to get out of here. Thank you, Dr. Tanya, for your wealth of wisdom and knowledge. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Our audience appreciates you. And we thank you for, we appreciate you for having you a part of the podcast. Now, of course, you stay safe, do what you do.
On that front line.
On that front lines.
Stay prayerful.
Stay prayerful, stay prayed up.
Yes.
And y'all pray for those that are on the front lines of this thing every day.
Every day.
Yeah, every day. They on the front lines of this every day. They are with your loved ones as they decease. And I mean, that takes a toll. You see somebody dying day after day after day after day after day. A person can only take so much of that. And pray for the young woman who's I think she was an ER doctor. She took her life because she couldn't take. She ran out of steam. She couldn't take it anymore. She could not take it anymore. It was an ER doctor, and she couldn't do it anymore. So y'all pray for those that are on the front lines because they are going through it just as much as the people who are infected because they are affected by what they see. So y'all, please be in prayer for them. But we got to get up out of here, y'all. We love y'all.
We love y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in.
And we appreciate y'all. And remember, stay thirsty, my friends. And what is your exit strategy? But until then, y'all stay blessed. Y'all stay thirsty. We got to go.
Bye, Dr. Tanya.
Bye, Dr. Tanya. We appreciate you.
If I